What defines sports? Is it the teamwork built through working to achieve a common goal? What about the camaraderie of a locker room or the shared responsibility and support required to overcome obstacles to get a dub? Blue Lock says fuck all of that in favor of an undeniable will, unwavering confidence in your own ability, and ego. The show is produced by 8-Bit, most popular for their work on That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, and at Blue Lock's best, they are able to come through with some amazingly animated scenes. But then it's kind of ruined by these bad CGI scenes, and I don't even hate CGI, like Land of the Lustrous, Trigun Stampede, and Chainsaw Man all have pretty good CGI. The soundtrack has also not been super memorable for me. There hasn't been a song yet where the beat drops and I start getting goosebumps, or immediately after the episode I have to try to find out if it's on YouTube or Spotify. Where Blue Lock has excelled though, for me at least, is in its story. It's Hunger Games meets soccer, where 300 U-18 Japanese strikers are locked in a high-tech facility, battling for the survival of their careers with the goal of producing Japan's best ever striker and someone who can lead them to a World Cup. With how well they played in real life, that might not even be that hard, to be honest. The whole thing is masterminded by conveniently named Ego or Ego Jinpachi, someone who wants to challenge the Japanese tradition of one for all in sports, and cultivate a striker through building their egotistical and selfish side to completely take over games alone. Now, the story of Blue Lock is not super complex, and honestly, the outcomes are pretty predictable, but I don't think every story needs to be complex, and the journey here is definitely more important than the destination. The main character Isagi is one of those U-18 players selected, and with his talent of field vision and anticipation, it allows him to function as a kind of narrator, which is a good and bad thing. It creates some hype moments for sure, but there's also definitely the shonen over-explaining thing going on here, like explaining the basics of kicking a ball, for example. The characters, while they are a bit tropey, are easy to like, unique enough from each other, and interesting enough to justify their places in the show, and Blue Lock generally does a pretty good job at giving them screen time outside of Isagi's shadow to develop and come into their own. For the true soccer fans, many of the players' styles mimic some of the best to ever do it, and there's tons of references to the real life sport. Although I don't really think that Blue Lock, at least at this point in the story, is trying to be like real soccer. I mean, the idea and importance of positions has been tossed to the wayside for one, and to me personally, that's okay. Anime is meant to express things creatively, so to me it's fine if some of the characters seem quote-unquote overpowered, because what does that even mean in the context of this universe if we haven't even made it that far yet? Or if some parts of real soccer are sacrificed in order to give us a unique twist on a common type of show. I will admit that some of the dialogue can be kinda weird, but my headcanon is just that it's super competitive 16-year-olds, and if you've ever been around those people, that cringe is true to life. Some of my favorite writing in Blue Lock is when they get into sports psychology. It touches on the dedication required to become the best at something and the need to devote your entire life to it to be successful in competition. One of the main concepts in Blue Lock are these quote-unquote monsters that are kind of the flow state of the athletes in the show. It's a mode of intense focus where nothing else but winning matters at that moment, and you can see the characters' eyes start to change and get really intense. The concept of a flow state in competition is definitely not an untouched subject, but even more than that, the concept of having this dark side you tap into at intense moments is very real. Tim Grover was the performance trainer of the greatest, or maybe second greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan, and in his book Relentless, he talks about tapping into that dark side to keep yourself on edge or using it as a source of fuel. Blue Lock also has some great points about winning and how to win that you can apply to your real life even if you don't give a damn about sports. In one episode, Ego mentions to the prospects that goals that happen by chance or by accident are worthless. If you can't reproduce a goal, it holds no value to yourself as a player. Instead, analyze the goals you do score and try to find common conditions so that you can create a formula for reproducing those goals. This can be applied to lots of facets of real life. On YouTube, if one of my videos does better than the others, it would be smart to try and understand why that video did well so that I can produce more, hopefully better content and continue to grow. This is the same for work, school, or whatever you do. When you have a good day, try to think about why that is and what happened to see if you can shape your environment or schedule to reproduce that. One of Isagi's main strengths in the show is his ability to challenge his own beliefs and rebuild himself and his understanding from the ground up when he's losing or things aren't going according to plan. Something that, funnily enough, most people are too egotistical to do. How many times have you been in a video game and seen someone blame their teammates? Or just generally see people not even try to change what they can actually control about the shit that they don't like? This is something that you can also bring into your real life. Gaining knowledge is one thing, but applying that knowledge, understanding how that knowledge changes how you thought before, and actually being bold enough to challenge the way you thought before is a whole nother thing. Blue Lock so far even challenges its own ideas. I think that the author knows the concept is somewhat flawed in terms of real sports, and oftentimes you'll see guys working as a team in order to succeed, and you almost forget what anime you're in before those eyes kick in. It approaches teamwork and leadership from both sides. You get the normal communication, strategy, and cooperation, but you also get flashes of that something special. People who are able to take over big moments in games by themselves, who are able to turn nothing into something, and who lead by example rather than facilitation. I'm a big sports fan. I love sports, but I don't think you have to in order to enjoy this show, and I damn sure don't think that Blue Lock is ruined because it isn't purist and doesn't cover every aspect of soccer perfectly. I don't usually rate anime on this channel, but I'd give it an 8. It has its flaws for sure, but it's also very solid, and the story has potential to blossom into something greater. I don't know how far the author wants to take this, if we're gonna get much story post the actual facility or not, but it definitely has potential. The animation at times, the hype, and the insight into sports psychology are all great, and I'd at least give it a few episodes if you haven't.